Take me
Take me
down to the Spider-Man city.
Take me down to Supaidāman city, where the spiders are red and the girls are kitties.
Welcome back, web slingers, to another episode of the Laser Comb Podcast, your favorite podcast where two 90s kids comb through classic television with a fine-tooth laser. I am one of your hosts, NeoCal, and I am brought you a special guest, The Siege.
The Siege. The Siege-a-man.
Siege-o-mano.
Yeah,
Siege-o-mano.
Mono
And I guess I would just be Neokaru. Yeah. You don't need to change much there.
your name works across multiple language barriers.
The Matrix permeates all, man. This is episode 40 of the Laser Comb Podcast.
You might say you even have the touch.
Yeah, the power. Even. The Laser Comb Podcast is wrapping up a certain Spider-Man theme.
Yep.
And today we watched Supaidāman, the Japanese live-action Spider-Man show.
Change the apart. Kimi wa naze tatakai tsuzukeru no ka, inochi o kakete hitosuji ni muteki no otoko Spider-Man.
Yep. Episode 13 of the Japanese Spider-Man show. The Skull Group versus the Devilish Hearse. The entire series is free to watch on YouTube.
Search Supaidāman, full episodes. There's just a playlist.
Yeah, there's a playlist of the entire series, which that person, whoever that is, shout out to them.
They're preserving media. It belongs in a museum. And
yeah, this is
bless you.
This is media preservation here. I've been really excited to get to this, which is one of the reasons why, like, for the rest of our Spider-Man, our block of Spider-Man shows, we've been kind of going in order of release. I wanted to save this for last, even though it's chronologically the earliest, because I've been making jokes. I've been referencing and making jokes about this series since I first discovered its existence back in like 2015 or so.
For anyone listening, it was Christopher saying Supaidāman that I was like, what do you reference? Like, what is Supaidāman? And he was like, that's a Japanese live action. And upon Googling it and finding out what the heck he was talking about, like, this aired in 1978.
Yeah.
Like, so bear that in mind when you go and check this out, right? Like, this is pioneering stuff.
Yeah.
Like, actually.
Yeah, this is live action Spider-Man, like, long before the days of Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, Tokyo Channel 12, baby. Long before. There's like 42. There's 41 episodes and one film.
Yeah, there was a movie that actually, I think it was a TV movie that came out between episodes 10 and 11, just called Supaidāman.
That's right. Well, there's a commentary we can do for the Patreon.
Yeah, there we go.
I legitimately, because if it's, in case you can't tell, listeners. This was really good. Probably for different reasons. Siege and I have probably for a lot of the same reasons.
This was kind of a joy to watch. For all the wrong reasons, all the right reasons, maybe.
Yeah, we didn't land on the episode titled Pro Wrestler Samson's Tears. We didn't land on the episode Famous Dog, Run Back to Father. We did not land on the episode Becoming Splendid, to the Murderous Machine of Transformation. We landed on The Skull Group versus the Devilish Hearse. What I like about the titles of the episodes is you know what you're getting.
I want to shout out some of the other titles of
that's why I had to throw some out there.
In the Mother's Chest, Resurrect the Young Boys. Phantom Thief 001 versus Spider-Man. The Terrifying Half Merman, The Miracle Calling Silver Thread.
Amazing.
What?
And even the boring titles, Good Luck, Beautiful Police Officer. There's a lot of heart.
Cockroach Boy, Great War, Great War. Sweet Whispering Enchantress. There is no child taking detective tomorrow. What the fuck do these titles even mean?
From the Secret Messenger of Hell, Great King Enema. Wait, what?
What?
Enma. Okay.
Anema or enema, straight up.
You can't kill me. Okay, enough. Wait, that was
Farewell, Zero Battle Tricks.
Amazing.
Indeed.
And we got lucky number 13.
Treasure. The last one. Treasure, comma, dog, comma, and double grow human.
It's just good. It just works. So, little thing that I had started doing, but my rampant ADHD quickly forgot, is giving a synopsis of the shows that we do on Lasercomb, which I've probably done for only about 5 episodes of the podcast. But I did remember.
We usually like to give like kind of a
that's
a
true.
background.
Siege usually gives a background for it, and we have been discussing that. But I would just like to read word for word the plot, the short plot synopsis from the wiki. Young motorcycle racer Takuya Yamashiro sees a UFO falling to Earth, a space warship named the Marveler. Takuya's father, Dr. Hiroshi Yamashiro, a space archaeologist, investigates the case, but is killed upon finding the spaceship. The incident.
Archaeologist.
How do I get that job? That sounds like the coolest fucking job. I knew you would like that.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Space archaeologist.
I knew you would like that.
Oh God.
His dad sounds rad. The incident attracts the attention of Professor Monster.
Yep.
And his evil Iron Cross army, an alien group that plans to rule the universe. The Iron Cross army, huh?
Yeah. Rule the universe through essentially eugenics and like genetic modification, because that's kind of it's kind of their MO.
Yep.
As what are these creatures that they take people and like splice, then like genetically modify them? And what do they call them?
I'm glad you asked, Siege. Because it took me a while to figure out what the heck was going on in the show. Unlike Rita from Power Rangers, who uses like magic.
Yeah.
Right? Already forgot. What is it? Dr. Evil? Professor Chaos?
Monster.
Professor Monster. Professor Monster.
And his right-hand henchwoman, Amazonia, I believe is her name.
Amazonas,
Or Amazonas, right.
Amazonas.
Basically Scorpina from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah, Monsatu Kyoju and Amazonasu. Yeah, he makes a little thing called machine bem.
Machine Bem.
So they're weapons created by the Iron Cross Army from Professor Monster, biological weapons. And a machine bem is usually made by each plot, like a lot of these Super Senpai.
Yeah. This is very much following the mold of like the Japanese Super Sentai series.
Sentai. Please, Sentai. Notice me.
Notice me, Sentai, and make my monster grow!
There we go. That's the best
we
combo joke we've ever made. Notice me, Sentai, and make my monster grow. Anyways, he doesn't use magic, this Professor Monster. He's a science.
We need Leopard on Megazord power now.
So the origins of the machine bems are never fully clarified, by the way. A few of them are actually genetically modified humans,
as is the case of the main antagonist of this episode in particular.
What it seems is Professor Monster like operates on them or unlocks something in them. He does some horrific like science doctor like shit on them, and they turn into monsters, and some of them grow giant.
Almost like he's a certain type of highly unethical scientist belonging to a literally the most evil army in history.
I doesn't ring a bell, but he sounds like bad news. But at least the people under his command are just following orders.
Yeah.
So yeah, Professor Monster and Amazonasu. He's got some other henchmen here or there. For this particular episode, they don't really matter.
No.
But what happens here is this particular episode.
Professor
Shall
Monster,
we get into it?
Yeah,
get into it.
So Professor Monster wants to create a new machine bem. So he's talking to Amazonas, that's her name, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Amazonas, and saying like he's like, get me a new machine bem. Like we've got this like iguana or like whatever the fuck it is.
Which is exactly. He's petting an iguana and he's like, bring me a genetically superior young male. I mean, literally, that's
to create a new machine bem. And so they go off to do that. The Devilish.
By the way, he kind of looks like a Phantom of the Opera, like Dr. Doom.
Yeah,
going on.
The costume design in this show is hysterical in how cheap looking it is,
and great. And yeah, the clinic him and his henchmen work at is just like in an abandoned shack, like out in the woods. Yeah. I love that. It's not like an underground like super base or like a submarine. It's just like out in the woods, like 20-minute walk from Tokyo.
So the titular Devilish Hearse is the Professor Monster mobile. Essentially, they bought him and Amazonas bomb around in this thing throughout.
So they bomb around in it. She's the driver, right?
Yeah, she's the driver. She's the driver. Later on, she's disguised as like a nurse. And you know it's her because the camera makes a point of freeze framing and zooming on the side of her face in one scene.
Just in case you didn't know that she kind of she's the front woman, right? Like she engages with the public. Keeps him secret, and he just hides out in the back of the hearse as if I thought he was a vampire at first.
Yeah.
But no, he like opens the little curtain inside and like peeks out every now and then.
They spend a lot of time in this episode bombing around in this hearse.
Right. They spend a lot of time doing really mundane things.
Just driving around.
which is kind of hilarious because when the big climactic battle happens, it is 10 seconds long.
Yeah,
I'm not even kidding. It is like 10, 15 seconds long. And
yeah.
that's funny to me.
I was because the episode I think on YouTube is only like 24 minutes long or something like that.
Yeah.
And it got to like the 22-minute mark or something like that, and I was disappointed. I was like, "Oh, we're not going to see the Megazord in this episode."
No,
Oh,
we're
okay.
not even going to see the bad guy.
Yeah, but then lo and behold, in the last like minute of the episode, the bad guy, like Rita Repulsa, is all like, "Make my monster grow," and the bad guy grows, and Supaidāman summons the spider car, the Marveler, and changes the big like robot Megazord thing. He
Right.
changes into a Pardon. I'm like,
And
oh,
by the way, there's no fight. Like
no.
Supaidāman doesn't get hurt. He immediately massacres this thing. Like just puts it out of its misery. It grows big, it does nothing, and then it dies.
Right.
So like that's not the important part of the episode. But what the episode does linger on are all of these familial values. Holy, I almost teared up at the parts where he meets with this. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Okay. There's lots of familial stuff, including a lot of shots, a lot of repeating shots of whatever his name is, the guy in the Supaidāman costume, the Japanese Peter Parker. There's
Yeah,
a lot. There's a lot of like repeating. There's a lot of repeating shots in this show. Period.
yeah, Takia.
There's a lot of repeating shots, like and quick like zoom ins on his face as he's looking at a picture, just staring.
I laughed
Eerily
so hard at that. He's
staring
looking at a picture of his dad.
of his father. Yeah, he's very eerily just like staring.
The camera
photo
shows
of
the
his father.
picture of his dad, then shows the picture of Takia, then shows the picture of his dad, then shows the picture of Takia.
It repeats like at least 10 times over.
It does it a few times there, and then later in the episode, it does it again.
He does it again.
And I'm because it wants to be like a soap opera. This is 78, right? Like,
Yeah.
people don't want. It's like in between a soap opera and like a social commentary, like like biker gangs being a problem, which we'll get into. Familial values it's trying to instill. You know how you said that there was like Hollywood writing code, and you had shared that stuff with me, and how it was really dated and kind of bad, and it was like it had certain values you had to have in a TV show.
Yeah.
Like way back when it was written in like the 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever. I'm wondering if a certain amount of screen time had to convey like Japanese values or something.
Yeah, there were
in this.
There were a lot of rules, particularly on. I don't know about in Japan, but in the United States, there were a lot of rules on children's television in writing in like the 70s and 80s. That's why all those cartoons that we grew up watching would almost always end with like some kind of PSA, like some sort of vignette with the characters like interacting with kids, teaching them some kind of life lesson.
Or saving everybody as they leave a fire. And it's like, remember, it's your duty as a citizen to report any accidents or fire. Like that kind of
Yeah, that kind of thing. That sort of thing was mandated in children's television at the time. I don't think it is anymore, but
yeah. And I had found out through you mentioning that and me deep diving into the weird laws and going into certain tropes. One of the tropes being kill your gays, which some of you may or may not be familiar with.
Bury your gaze, I think it's called.
Bury your gaze, sorry. For queer folk to appear on screen, it could not be in a depiction of, at least for many decades, it could not be in a depiction of them being contradictory to what is acceptable morals.
Right.
So very often these characters would be
quote unquote
villains.
Acceptable
morals, right? And so very often whenever you could get away with more with villains, but like surprise, surprise, you have a whole generation of people who love who love the fabulous villains,
Yeah,
over
that's
like the
why.
last 5 decades.
Yeah, that's why you have like so many, even in like children's like cartoon, like Saturday morning cartoons and like Disney animated movies. That's why you would have these very flamboyant, like bombastic villains. Uh, uh, was because of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, oh well, they're bad guys, and it's like, well, that's weird. How come so many people um like the Wicked Witch and like Snow White? And it's like she's allowed to wear eyeshadow, she's allowed to be fabulous.
Look at Jafar in Aladdin, or
The,
like Ursula in The Little Mermaid. Like,
Ursula,
yeah,
Ursula, right? And it's like they don't realize they're making like gay icons. But
yeah, like, uh,
and that's the thing, right? It's okay to depict them as like villains. And
and then you
that
end
I'm
up with an
wondering,
you end up with an entire, like you were saying, an entire generation of people who just like absolutely adore villains in
yeah.
the media that they grew up with.
And as somebody who's not um as
Even in
somebody
Be
who's
like
not older.
even like we talk about Beast Wars a lot on our Beast Wars podcast, Too Much Energon. In Beast Wars, Megatron is flamboyant as fuck.
He is flamboyant as fuck, and we ran with it. We never made any social comment. They're
No,
robots. They don't
yeah,
have a sexuality, or I don't think they do. Um,
in the recent comics, canonically, they do tackle the issues of sexuality and gender and all of that.
actually, Tigatron and Airazor are a couple. So actually, I take my statement back. They do have
And in
a
the
sexuality.
and in the Japanese dub of Beast Wars, the American / Canadian Beast Wars cartoon, Air Razor is male, and they're still a couple in that show.
I
Yeah,
I didn't know. And but yeah, that's why you the more interesting characters are like the flamboyant villains.
yeah.
And that became its own trope, even in times where you didn't have to bury your gays.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if there's something like that going on here, because let me tell you, the unsung hero of this show is Amazonas. She does everything for Professor Monster. And I'm like, she kind of looks like she could beat up Supaidāman, like on her
Yeah.
own. Just like take the gloves off her and let her go. People die in this episode. Like a
Yeah.
family dies. I'm not even kidding. Like it centers around an estranged father and son.
Yeah.
They fucking die, like
So
tragically, after not reconciling. This is deep. I'm not I'm not even kidding. The father like cries, and Takuya like holds him in his arms, and he's like, no, like your son will come back when the time is right. Like you can't
Right.
give up on him. Like I'm all over the place with the episode. We're just talking about it in broad strokes, but basically
so the gist of it is
yeah,
there's this biker gang. What do they call it? The Skull Group. They're in the
Skull
title of the
Group.
episode.
And
So
they're harassing the hearse, bombing
yeah,
down
yeah.
the road.
Yeah, so they're this biker gang. They just like ride around on motorcycles and seemingly just like pick on people.
As is depicted in like 70s and 80s like Japanese culture, these gangs are just a menace.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, they're just kind of a nuisance essentially. So they're
They're a
bombing
nuisance.
around.
They pick on people.
They
These are
pick on
stunt
people.
drivers, by the way. They're doing like sick like little turns, like almost touching the ground, like doing little
Right.
like I can't remember the term, but when you wobble back and forth on like a bike, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, and they're doing tons of stuff like that. They're really like showing off. Yeah. And they're harassing poor Amazonas and Professor Monster.
And so
They're saying like, oh, drive faster, you're disrupting.
yeah.
Like
It's Professor Monster then decides that the leader of this gang, whatever his name is, Biker Boy, I'm gonna call him. So
Speed Boy. Yeah, Speedy Speed Boy.
Yeah. So biker / Speed Boy ends up becoming the person that Professor Monster wants to be his latest machine bem.
Yeah. I need him, Amazonas. Bring him to me. I need his superior, glistening, muscly, young adult body. There's some, what I'm trying to say here is there's a lot of repressed, there's a lot of repressed emotions and feelings from Professor Monster.
Full transparency, ladies and gentlemen, I watched this episode a week ago and haven't rewatched it, so I'm kind of going from memory, and my memory is a little hazy. But somehow Supaidāman gets involved with this. I
Well,
think
the Skull Gang tries to get him to fight them, and Supaidāman's like a pacifist.
Yeah.
Even when people are pushing him around, he will.
Oh yeah, they're like harassing him when he's in his civvies early in the episode.
He's in an arcade or something. Pachinko parlor.
Pachinko parlor
or something like that.
Konami is
Yeah, and
all
he
over
accidentally sends. He accidentally shit talks them.
it.
Yeah, and they go to like beat him up.
Yeah, and he, I guess, like changes into to Supaidāman and fights them.
Well, no, he actually kind of fights and they tussle just like normal like people, and it's actually Biker Boy's dad who intervenes and stops the Skull group,
Right.
the Skull Gang, from beating up like Takuya.
Yeah.
And then it's all of a sudden it's just like, huh? Wait, son, is that you? Masao, please come home. It's Masao's dad.
Yeah. And
And he's like, please, I haven't seen you in such a long time. And they're like, is that your dad? Freaking loser. And then they're like, all right, this is getting lame. Let's go. And they peace out. And that's the begins what most of the episode is, a bonding between Takuya and like this old man.
it's bonding between Supaidāman in his civvies, in his Japanese Peter Parker form, and Biker Boy's dad. Like,
And
Biker
you know
Boy,
what?
and they have like, he like serves him lunch or something
They
like
eat
that.
together, they talk, and here's where there's like some heart here. He's lost his son, or he feels like he's lost his son,
Yeah.
Masao, right? But Takuya has lost his dad.
Yeah.
So there's this like bonding, right? And he's like, oh, I wish my son were like you. And he's all like, your son's young. Like there are phases, right? Like he's gonna realize in a few years that none of that is important.
Right.
So he kind of like teaches him some Zen.
Yeah.
But it bites him in the ass, because later in the episode, Masao comes home and he's like, oh, son, you came home. And his dad like brushes the Cheeto dust off of him, and he's like, oh, here, and like tries to serve him tea. And he's like, Dad, I'm not here to like hang out with you, old man. I need some money. I need to upgrade my hog. I'm the leader. I need to show off. So come on, give it to me. And he's like, and he pushes his dad, like, and he,
his
by
dad
the way,
falls around for the
can we
first.
talk about that?
His dad falls a lot in this episode. He falls.
This guy
to the ground.
was a stuntman when he was younger.
He falls to the ground in like every scene he's in.
It really wants to make you feel bad for this. Again, Japanese values.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're supposed to be really offended by Masao, right?
Yeah.
Like he pushes his dad. He dramatically but safely like falls on the table and knocks things over. But
I like
it's
how
so badly done that you could tell he knelt, the camera angle changed, and then he just pushed it over with his hands.
I like the if I recall correctly, the way that scene ends is basically Biker Boy's dad tells him that, oh, you're dead to me. You're no son of mine. Go on, get out of here. And his reaction,
after he steals his dad's wallet.
And his reaction is just like, okay, whatever, and leaves.
He's like, yeah, you're dead to me. Yeah. And Masao's like, oh geez, this is all you got, as he's holding his wallet. And he's like, man, I have so much shame that my dad like barely has any money, and I have a parent that doesn't know how to work hard. And I'm like,
Right.
fuck you.
Yeah, like you said, Japanese values, especially in the 70s, you're supposed to be like outraged by the way this kid is treating his dad.
And indeed, even now, I'm like, man, fuck this guy. Like, I understand it's really heavily leaning into the Japanese value, but like this guy is supposed to be villainous,
Right.
right? And indeed, like pushes his dad over, steals from him, and then shit talks him when he doesn't have enough money on him.
I think
But
my
yeah,
favorite
it ends with him disowning him.
I think my favorite bit in the entire episode, speaking of his biker boy's dad falling over, is when he's crossing the street and falls over.
Yeah, just
Oh, just like randomly on the ground, he just like falls over. He's like lying on the ground in the middle of a crosswalk.
and indeed in the middle of the crosswalk. And indeed, now that I'm thinking about it and my gears are spinning, a big thing from 50s values and kind of 50s kind like Boy Scouts in general, regardless if it's Japan, America, or whatever, like help old people across the street.
Right.
Right. And even now, it's like, you know what? There's a difference between like conservative values and being a good person. And it's like, man, I understand that like they try to intertwine those so that they're the same, but like this is so heavy-handed.
Right.
Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
this poor dude.
I love the music in this show.
Thank you for bringing that up.
There's a lot of shots of Supaidāman just like crouched over with his arms out, just like kind of scurrying along.
Can
with
we
like
talk about
with
the
like
weird
really
fucking
goofy,
scurrying?
like really goofy like 70s music playing.
So the way by the way, there are shots in between where he's Supaidāman and he's spying, but
Yeah.
they're just like 30-second shots, and then he's Takuya again.
Yeah.
And then he's spying. And so what it's trying to do is make it seem like he's doing investigation. He's following the hearse. He's looking for Amazonas and where their base is. And indeed, he finds it, and they have to abandon it. So the enemy base gets relocated a few times in the series, I assume. It'd be weird if they went back after Spider-Man found out where they work. But yeah, that half crouch scurrying, can we talk about how damn awkward
it's very awkward looking.
So to enhance that, by the way, he has a race car.
Yep.
Like he has a race car, and he has a flying. Is the race car the same as the flying car?
Yep.
The Marveler?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to make sure.
And like there are a couple of just very random shots in this episode where we just see him driving down the street in the Spider-Mobile.
Just like not chasing anyone, by the way,
No,
just going from one area to another.
Casually driving.
Like going the speed limit, just driving down the road.
Also lots of repeating shots. I alluded to this earlier. There's like several shots where like a character will be on a motorcycle and they'll drive past the screen and that shot will just repeat like 6 times over.
Yeah.
There's some very bizarre editing choices in this show.
It doesn't really show how the public sees or interacts with Supaidāman.
No.
Because his only interactions are with bad guys.
Yeah.
Oh, except when he like finds Amazonas fucking assassinates like Masao's dad. Like,
oh yeah.
Kills him dead in a phone booth.
Doesn't she kill she kills Biker Boy too, right? She like runs.
Well, he's turned into Machine Bam, but do they kill him too?
I thought they like hit him with a car or something like that, and then they take him away in an ambulance, but then we get that shot, that freeze frame zoom in.
Right.
Amazonas is actually like the one loading him into the ambulance.
After Masao leaves his father's home and he's disowned, he's hit by the hearse who drives away. And then a conspicuous looking ambulance pulls up. It's Professor Monster and his like Iron Cross scientists. And his Iron Cross scientists are pretending to be ambulance emergency, like
EMT, yeah.
yeah. And they take him away. And what is it? Taki does some more research. Again, he's supposed to be an investigator type. And he goes to the Masayo's dad and he's like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
he's not in any hospitals.
Spider-Man, also known as the world's greatest
The
detective.
world's greatest detective. I wonder if Batomano would be the friendly neighborhood Batomano.
Friendly neighborhood Batman.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like, hey, your son's not in any of the hospitals. And that's when he's found out, hey, wait a second, they ran him over and on the brink of death, they machine bemmed him, made him a machine bem, used a machine bem, turned him into a machine bem. There we go.
He got bemmed up.
He got bemmed. He's on the bem juice. Oh geez.
Yeah, so he becomes like a giant lizard thing because his DNA got spliced with this iguana that Professor Monster was like
right, the iguana he was petting earlier.
Yeah. So he becomes like a giant anthropomorphic lizard guy.
Did I mention that Masayo's dad was shot with a gun while he was about to call like 911 by Amazonas, like in the grassy knoll?
No.
Kind of, yeah. He's assassinated.
Speaking of,
he's shot and killed.
Speaking of grassy areas, I like how at one point in this episode, Supaidāman just straight up like fights like what are essentially the putty patrol from Power Rangers.
Frantically in and out of a house.
Yeah.
It's so frantic and weird and reminds me of a Jackie Chan choreography, because he'll get hit and he'll stumble and he'll grab people and throw it. But I'm actually a fan of that, by the way. The frantic fighting in the abandoned house.
Right.
It's all over the place. And his weird, like, half crouching scurries he does on the rooftop. Remember when he's like dangling from the ceiling and he's fighting them? That's so awkward. Do you recall that when he's in like the corner and they're running at him and his back's to the camera and like they miss, fall, and then like he grabs their face and smack. Anyways, they're trying it. I'll give them bonus points because we don't see a lot of this. People right side up trying to fight Spider-Man when he's on the ceiling. So they tried.
Bless them.
They tried. But what is it? There's acid. By the way, the costume for Iguanodon, Iguanazord. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Ooh, it's paper mache. And
yeah,
it's bad.
It's pretty bad.
But I mean, here's the thing. He's on screen for 45 seconds. Of course it's gonna be paper mache, my dudes. Like you said, it's like what, the last like couple minutes? And he sprays acid. Do you remember the effects?
No. Oh, isn't it like just like superimposed like lighting effect? Like color.
Oh, it's so good and bad. So it sprays, but it's a superimposed like what's that 90s like After Effects or whatever, like a kid would do in high school. And the putties have samurai swords.
Windows Movie Maker.
There we go. It's Windows Movie Maker, but like one color without any texture. And basically it turns things to stone or disintegrates them. Not sure, because it only ever hits the wall. What do you want? What do you want from them? It looks like Nickelodeon slime.
Yeah.
But yeah, the putties have samurai swords. They're really athletic. I really like the moving. It's a lot better than most, not all, but most of Power Rangers choreography.
Right.
They're jumping over him. They're rolling under him as like Spider-Man's jumping. Good job. But again, this is all happening in the last minute of the episode.
So how does Iguana Boy, how does he become like kaiju sized?
So Amazonas pops up. She's like, hey, you're looking for Masayo? This is him. And she's like, we turned him into a machine bem. And he barely understands the human mind. and she points at Supaidāman and is like, "You must defeat him." And instead of them fighting at all, he just goes, "Yeah," and grows. So unlike Rita, they can just grow on will. Yeah, like they don't make him do it. He just grows, and he goes,
so
"Machine Bem."
He's got Pym particles, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and he goes, "Machine Bem, biker monster."
And well,
He's got a sword, by the way, even though Masao didn't use a sword.
Yeah, and I was when I was watching the episode, I was like, oh, I guess this is this is just an episode that doesn't feature Leopardon, his Megazord. But no, he summons it in the last like minute or so of the show.
And
I'm like, oh, there it is.
And indeed, the Spider Protector has, which is what he calls his suit, by the way.
Spider,
it has something on it.
It protects him, so I get it.
Protect him. I get it. Yeah. Supaida Protekuta. He has a big chunky bracelet, you may have noticed.
Yeah, he's got a Pip-Boy.
He's got it's about the same size. Probably radioactive too.
Yeah.
Supaida Buresetu. Bureshureto.
It's got to be radioactive.
How they say bracelet.
That's where he gets his Supaida powers.
No, he got it from an alien ship.
Oh.
Takuya doesn't have any powers. It's all tech from the Marveler. Alien tech.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, did I forget to mention that, listeners? Takuya doesn't have any powers. That's why when he was fighting, like brawling with the Skull Group,
biker gang, yeah,
the biker boys from Tokyo, he's just wrestling with them. He's just fighting them like normal. All of his stuff is like tech stuff, like a discount Tony Stark, like an alien Tony Stark.
Yeah. So
well, actually, there's lots of heroes that get their powers from an outside source.
Well, and even Spider-Man in those MCU movies, as played by Tom Holland, like
it's all super tech that belongs to Tony.
Yeah, he still has powers, like he can stick to walls. He's got super strength and all of that. But
I see what you're saying. Outside of it, he still has powers.
He still has powers, but yeah, he has like a tech suit that like enhances everything.
And indeed, that's what's going on here. The spider net, spider strings, the spider bracelet. The flying car is the Spider Machine GP7. Cool.
Yeah.
And the Marveler is the spacecraft. Oh, okay. There we go. I answered my question from earlier. If the car,
I thought that. I'm sure the car. I'm positive the car was the thing that was flying around. That like
the
locked.
Spider-Man's flying car is equipped with machine guns, missile launchers. It's stored inside the Marveler.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. The Spider Machine is the car.
Yeah.
It can fly and yeah. Okay. And he calls.
They look identical to one another. So
yeah. You're right. I got confused reading all of the deets here, but yeah.
Well, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me in this show if they were two separate things, even though they look identical. They just like reuse the same model.
That's a good point. Yeah. never take anything for granted. So Rio Parodon. What is it? Siege?
It's a well, if you've watched Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the last like 3 minutes of an episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, you might see that they always summon a giant robot, and that's what we got going on here.
I don't like its head.
No,
it's got a gross like sphincter mouth.
I was gonna say its mouth looks like an anus.
Could have designed that a little cooler. Do you know it's a cooler design than the fucked up mouth and nose that they have there? Just a solid mouth plate.
Yeah.
Like Prime.
Yep.
Like Optimus Prime.
Yeah, or right? like a lot of like robots even in
good point
like this. Like even
like a lot of Sentai.
Yeah. Like even the original like Megazord has a faceplate. Or like
just
later
give
ones,
me a faceplate.
We'll just have it like a straight face mouth.
Ultraman just has a straight like line from, I think that's Ultraman, right? Who grows giant, and he's got the Ultraman, the OG Ant-Man, right?
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I know of Ultraman. I don't know anything about the character though.
But yeah, he goes inside of Leopardon, Rio Parodon, and he fights biker. I already forgot. Biker monster.
Yeah, so he takes the Spider Mobile. He summons the Marveler, this big like flying like ship type thing. He takes he takes his flying car, the Spider Mobile, flies and docks into it like a shuttlecraft on the USS Enterprise.
Pretty cool, actually. I like that.
Actually, what it
How
reminds
nice of the giant monster Bem to let him do do all of this.
go through all of this nonsense, right? Actually, it reminds me of speaking of Japanese media. There was an anime called Grendizer. Grendizer is it's about an alien, a dude who like escapes a dying world, and he like lands on Earth and is taken in at this farm by this family. But he has this big like flying saucer, like literally a flying saucer, a round thing. That has this head with like horns sticking out of it.
That is a good giant robot design.
And that robot, that head and a robot body actually ejects from this like flying saucer, and that robot is called Grendizer.
Right.
Actually, those two things are not similar at all. I don't know why I made that.
You just wanted to bring it up because Grendizer looks cooler than Rio Parodon. Yeah, it does.
So the Spider-Mobile docks into the Marveler, and Supaidāman is like, change Leopardon. And this
and
like
he's by the way, it's very science. It doesn't want you to accidentally think that magic or black magic is okay. Because again, 1978 Japan. Right? Everything is science here.
Yeah,
not magic.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that, because like even in like later Super Sentai series, even from like a decade later, like it's very much just like magic, like make my monster grow, kind of thing.
Yeah, make my monster grow, and it's just
literally throwing a wizard staff at the ground and make it like magically grow up, because that's what Rita does. She has a wizard staff. She just throws it at the ground and it makes the monster grow big.
Oh yeah, well, I guess I skipped over that or made a joke about it, but I never spoke about it. The good guys use science.
Okay.
Bad guys use magic.
But not in this show though, because they're using genetic engineering to create the machine, Bem.
The bad science, one might one might say. Right?
You and me, baby, ain't nothing but monsters, so let's do it like they do on
Supaidāman. So what happens? Does he Supaidāman,
he's like change Leopardon. He pushes.
Does he throw like a tiara? What does he throw at him? Hold my beer.
The Marveler transforms into Leopardon, which is a big like giant robot, and it doesn't even fight this like lizard thing.
The lizard thing tries to spit acid out of him. By the way, there's a phone, like an old school phone inside of the cockpit here, which I really like. The acid doesn't affect Leopardon at all, and he turns a dial and he says arc turn.
The telephone inside the cockpit of Leopardon is no doubt if Spider-Man needs to phone the authorities to warn them of impending danger.
Or how the mayor gets a hold of the world's greatest detective, Supaidāman. Surprised it's not red. But yeah, he says,
yes, Commissioner.
Commissioner. He says arc turn, the giant thing on his like head turns into a magic boomerang, hits the monster, he explodes, he wins. There's no battle. Sword vigor. Oh, he's got a sword. He's just got a sword, and he throws the sword and it embeds itself in the monster's chest and explodes, and he's gone. And so is the sword. And so is the sword, but I bet you he still has the sword. You remember that, D?
This is single use.
Single use, but he's got lots of.
It's got a lot of them.
So Siege isn't
He had to
watching
buy
this. He watched this like last week, and it's funny you remember that.
he had to buy it in bulk.
He's got so many of them, but the thing is, he kind of regrets not buying more because like the enemies die so easily.
Well, I had to buy 10,000 of these, and well, I've only got like 47 of them left.
I could have bought 1,000 of them for 1 million yen, or I could buy 10,000 of them for 5,000 yen. So 5 million yen. So you get like twice the value, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
How
the
many
episode.
episodes of the show we got left over?
Oh, geez.
That's
How are we going to get rid of these?
Yeah, right. He's just got this like underground like lab, like this underground like storage locker, like this big like storage facility underground that just has like dozens, like hundreds of these things just laying around.
And indeed, just like much like my masks, I wonder if the day will come where I will have hundreds of masks to not use anymore. But that day has not come.
Not yet.
Not
We're
yet.
we're not in the purge days yet.
We're not in the purge days, no. So at the very end here, pardon me, I'm reading subtitles here. A Professor Monster had destroyed the most important thing for humans: parental love. That's word for word how it ends. The most important thing for humans.
The most.
So one could argue that Professor Monster did not kill Maseo. So one could argue it was not the Professor Monster that killed Maseo.
It was his lack of respect for his father that turned him into a giant iguana man.
And I'm not even exaggerating. That's the. By the way, there's a narrator. I guess I forgot to bring that up. That's the narrator telling us what to think at the end. The most important thing for humans: parental love.
When I was laughing, I literally just like spat on my mic.
Oh,
Like,
out of that ending line.
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
So yeah. Oh, and by the way, the narrator tells us this as it lays down. Takuya is laying down flowers at the phone booth where Masao's father was assassinated.
Right.
Because if he doesn't, well, no one else is.
Yeah, because
then
Lizard Boy, because he threw a sword into the chest of Lizard Boy.
Yeah, I'm like, so we not trying to bring these guys back? Are we just executing them? I didn't kill him. He killed himself when he forsake his father.
Yeah.
And with that, we roll the Western themed credits. By the way, ooh, fucking fire outro.
Yeah.
Goodbye, my friend, my eternal friend. It's slapping.
Well,
and that brings us to the end of Supaidāman.
That it does.
Here on it's kind of just fun to talk about. Before I get into the final our final verdict on Supaidāman. Siege, is there any finishing statements or observations or thoughts on our dear 1978 Supaidāman?
No, I think I said just about everything.
I think we got our point across. So that being said, here on the Lasercomb podcast, we don't do a rating system. We just ask the viewers and each other. So Siege, when it comes to Supaidāman, you just caught a random episode of it. Would you tune in next week?
100%. I foresee myself like getting drunk one night and just like watching a bunch of these.
Just like binging like 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have to say the same thing. This wasn't what I expected, but it was so much more. And because it's kind of like a relic of its time, like all the I didn't notice until we started analyzing it, all of the conservative moral lessons that the episode has for us. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I
And
honestly, when I was watching it, I didn't even think about any of that. I'm like, just wow, the show is really wacky and zany and
oh,
cheap
it's wacky and zany, yeah,
and
even
cheap,
without all of that. But that kind
so
of makes
cheap.
it great.
Yeah, yeah, no, the cheapness is part of its charm.
And I agree. I would tune in next week. And if not tune in next week, binge watch it on YouTube because here it is in all of its glory.
Yeah, I'll put a link to the YouTube playlist for the show in the description for this episode.
Amazing. And there you have it. I think that brings us to the end of our Spider-Man themed
Quote unquote
set,
month.
quote
Because
unquote month.
because well, June of 2022 was supposed to be Spider Month, and we're now in the middle of July. Because
What are you going to do?
as I often say, sometimes life finds a way, and sometimes life gets in the way.
Exactly.
And it
And
did.
sometimes Supaidāman and his iron and the opposed Iron Cross army breaks apart a family.
Sometimes Supaidāman changes Leopardon.
Yeah, I think that's more deeper than what I said. The Supaidāman is the Leopardon we made along the way.
There we go. Nailed it. So
nailed it.
That was episode 40 of the Lasercomb podcast. If you want to support the show, or if you want to pick a random episode, or pick a show for us to review a random episode of, go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB. I recently revamped the Patreon. There's now a single $5 tier, and that gets you bonus preamble audio of just stuff me and Cal talk about before we get into doing the shows proper. Gets you a monthly-ish movie commentary track. Gets you a weekly/bi-weekly-ish news and current events program, Lasercomb Tonight. And as I mentioned, you can pick a show for us to review a random episode of. So if you want to get in on that, patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/lasercomb. You can follow me on Twitter at Lasercomb. Once again, LAZORCOMB. Cal, you are at?
I am at NeoCal, NEO_KAL on Twitter.
We'll be back next week with a brand new themed quote unquote month. July of 2022 is the 25th anniversary of the premiere of Stargate SG-1, one of my favorite shows of all time. So for
Say it
the
ain't so.
So for the remaining weeks of July, we're gonna cover a random episode of Stargate SG-1 and a random episode of Stargate Atlantis and maybe Stargate Universe if time permits. We'll have to see, but we're definitely gonna do SG-1 and Atlantis. So to figure out what episode of SG-1 we are going to be reviewing next week, we're gonna go to the trusty random number generator. So I'm gonna, as always, hit screen share, and Stargate SG-1 lasted 10 seasons. There was a very brief period where it was the longest running American sci-fi show in history. Doctor Who holds the record for the longest running sci-fi series in history because it's been going for like 50
Right?
years, so 40 or 50 years.
Is it even the same show? I mean,
debatable.
guess technically, but it's debatable.
So SG-1 lasted 214 episodes. So
wow, holy lord.
Going to the old trusty random number generator. So one random number is between 1 and 214, and here we go. Do 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 do. 180.
180.
Wow, that's up there. That's it's a season 9 episode. Holy shit. Beachhead.
Huh.
It's season 9, episode 6. I don't remember what episode that is, but I know that undoubtedly when I sit down and actually start watching it, I'm going to be like, oh, it's this episode.
Beachhead.
So keep an eye out for that. We'll be back next week with episode 41 of the Lasercomb Podcast. And until then, I've been The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Adios.
Oh!
闇深く響く地獄の足音模様の下眠る父よ胸に秘めた非常の定めさらば友よ誓いの友よ俺はただ一人俺はただ一人親を走る